Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 25. Krishna lifts Govardhan Hill. We'll do texts 9 through 13. Vidyotamana Vidjubi Stananta Stanayit Nubi Tivramarud Ganaya Nuna Vavishur Jala Shakara Vidyotamana Vidjubi Stananta Stanayit Nubi Tivramarud Ganaya Nuna Vavishur Jala Shakara Vidyotamana Vidjubi Stananta Stanayit Nubi Tivramarud Ganaya Nuna Vavishur Jala Shakara. Vaishnavis. Vidyotamana, being illuminated. Vidjubi, by bolts of lightning. Stananta, roaring. Stanayit nubi, with thunder. Tivrai, fearsome. Marut ganai, by the wind gods. Nuna, propelled. Vavishu, they poured down. Jalashakara, hailstones. Translation. Propelled by the fearsome wind gods, the clouds blazed with lightning bolts and roared with thunder as they hurled down hailstones. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that the word Marudganai indicates the 7 great winds, such as Avaha, who presides over the region of Bhuvarloka, and Pravaha, who holds the planets in their places. Text 10. As the clouds released torrents of rain as thick as massive columns, the earth was submerged in the flood, and high ground could no longer be distinguished from low. Text 11. The cows and other animals, shivering from the excessive rain and wind, and the cowherd men and ladies, pained by the cold, all approach Lord Govinda for shelter. 12. Trembling from the distress brought about by the severe rainfall, and trying to cover their heads and calves with their own bodies, the cows approached the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 13. The cowherd men and women addressed the Lord. Krishna, Krishna, O most fortunate one, please deliver the cows from the wrath of Indra. O Lord, you are so affectionate to your devotees. Please save us also. Purport. At the time of Lord Krishna's birth, Garga Muni had predicted, Anena sarva durgani yuyam anjas tradishyata. By his grace you will easily cross beyond all difficulties. The residents of Vrindavan were confident that in such a great emergency, Lord Sri Narayan would empower Krishna to protect them. They accepted Krishna as everything, and Krishna reciprocated their love. Om Agana Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. You're in the middle of a huge environmental disaster. And as always, environmental disasters are caused by excessive greed, which covers the intelligence of the human being. And in this case, it's covered the intelligence even of Indra. Undoubtedly, in previous classes, you've heard about Ishamana, this pride that I am the controller. That pride affects the whole universe to varying degrees at various times. We can look at the world today and see that human beings have no idea how to live on their planet without destroying it. Last night at the Prerana Festival, we spoke about the theme of being Hanuman instead of being human. And we briefly analyzed what is it that human beings are doing today that is so laudable and so noteworthy. They have successfully destroyed their own planet. And caught up in passion, caught up in lust and greed, they've destroyed the future of their own children and grandchildren. This is what happens when you have that, who cares about anything except my immediate sense gratification. The lust takes over you, the greed overpowers you, and you destroy the future of your succeeding generations. How did Indra become so overwhelmed by pride? Power can bring pride. Of course, Indra has extraordinary power. But even in the blighted, diminished conditions of the age of Kali, you can see that even someone with practically nothing still has pride. This is the empowerment of the illusory energy. Maya convinces you, you have something valuable. You have material abilities. You have material resources. Ishamana. Consider yourself to be a controller. Shukadeva Goswami remarks in his describing the symptoms of Kali Yuga. How that is the way it is. Someone has practically nothing and still they are proud. Twice in this chapter, Indra presents the reason for his losing control through anger. When you are angry, as you know, it's due to frustrated desires. Twice Indra says, Krishna marcham upasrita. These cowherd people of Vrindavan have taken shelter of an ordinary person named Krishna. He emphasizes that by repeating it twice. They have made an extraordinary mistake. They have allocated resources meant for my pleasure, and they're using them according to the direction of this foolish child. So you see that conflicts over resource allocation are nothing new. That's the reason for wars on the earth planet. And even Indra, although he has so much, he's so disturbed. Resources meant for me have been allocated by that talkative little boy, Krishna. Krishna marcham upasrita. These Brajbasis have taken shelter of an ordinary person. Indra couldn't tolerate that. He accused Vachalam Balisham Stabdham Agyam Pandita Manina. This Krishna, Vachalam, he's talkative. Can you believe what he was saying? Can you take it seriously? He's saying ignore the demigods and just focus on your karmic activity. Karmic activity in of itself brings the results. It's not necessary to involve the devas. Can you believe that he said such a thing? And these coward people are listening? Obviously, Krishna is Balisham. He's a child with no knowledge of the Shastras. Stabdam. He's arrogant because he didn't even listen to his own father. He ignored his own father, who patiently tried to explain to him the reason for the Indra Puja. This is pure arrogance. Agyam. He's ignorant. He's not aware of the cosmic manifestation. He doesn't know how the universe works. Panditamani. He thinks he's so learned, speaking all that Karmavad philosophy. Indeed, Indra, so full of himself, anger and pride, described that the residents of Vrindavan are like persons who have given up transcendental knowledge and who think that they can cross over the ocean of material existence just by fruitive activities. Indra has completely forgotten that the goal of all transcendental knowledge is Krishna, and whatever Krishna wants, however Krishna wants it. Because Indra feels offended. Again, resources meant for me have been allocated to someone else. Because he feels so offended, his pride has been severely attacked. He's speaking such craziness while accusing Krishna of being ignorant. Krishna marcham upasrita. They have dared to take shelter of an ordinary person. Gopa me chakra priya. These cowherd persons have acted in a way that's apriya. It's not dear to me. They've become my enemies. So Indra, as you know, took the rare step of calling for the natural forces of annihilation to appear at a most untimely moment in the history of the universe. These forces of destruction are reserved for cosmic annihilation. And Indra is summoning them, go to Vrindavan. Destroy Vrindavan. This is the power of anger. We've heard the description. Propelled by the fearsome wind gods, Marut Ganai, by the wind gods. The clouds blaze with lightning bolts and roar with thunder as they hurl down hailstones. Last night at our Prarana festival, one of the persons attending asked the question about things like this in the Shastra. Are we to really believe that an expansion of Balaram named Anantashesh holds all the planets on his hoods? And here you all intelligent persons, and you're hearing about the wind gods. Isn't this primitive? So he asked me, how are we, in other words, who are educated, he was sincerely asking, how are we meant to accept these things when we're studying science? How is it that we're meant to handle these descriptions in the Shastra? So, of course, I explained to him that you have to decide where you're going to attribute inconceivability to. The Shastra is presenting conscious entities as possessing inconceivable powers. The Shastra presents a nested hierarchy of consciousness as the universe. A whole gradation of different levels of consciousness. Indra, as a Devata, he has much more powerful consciousness than a human being. And of course, there's the supreme consciousness, the supreme personality of Godhead. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. Of all the eternals, there's one supreme eternal. Of all the conscious living entities, there's one supreme conscious entity. So I explained to the gentleman that denying the inconceivable potencies of conscious beings, you're forced to attribute inconceivability to matter. Matter produces life. Matter produces consciousness. So I explained to him, isn't that inconceivable? Can you give any scientific proof of that? So denying Krishna, denying the powers of the demigods, you're forced to invest extraordinary, mystical, inconceivable potencies in matter. Matter can do it all. It is the cause of all causes. Sarva karna karna. So I pointed out to him, that's the trap that you'll fall into. Now, if you want to be analytical and fair, you could say that the Shastra does present laboratory techniques for verifying the conscious powers of the universe and beyond. The bhakti techniques will bring you realization of the supreme conscious person, Krishna. Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Now, where are the techniques that will verify matter giving rise to everything as the cause of all causes? There are none. So therefore, any open-minded, unbiased person will give Krishna a fair chance. That's all we're asking. As they say in Australia, give someone a fair go. Give Krishna a fair go. Is that unreasonable? Now let's look at things from another angle. You're reading about the wind gods, Indra, his elephant Airavata, and of course, that controversial little blue boy who so enraged Indra. Now, there are some ideas, sophisticated scholarly notions, which you should be aware of. They're not so difficult to understand. Look at the past of human beings. Human civilization, when it was very primitive, there were so many religions promoting gods here, there, and everywhere. Gods behind every force of nature. Gods in the spiritual world, gods in the underworld. Anytime you couldn't explain something, you invented a god. Called God of the Gaps. When there's a gap in your knowledge, you say, God did it. So there were so many competing religions with their whole collection of gods. So then what happened? Why is it that today we have just a few super religions? So these thinkers apply the Darwinian approach that what happened with religion was the survival of the fittest. Those religions that couldn't present super powerful, all-powerful, Sarvakarna Karnam gods, they faded away. And those religions that could produce almighty, insurpassable, incomparable, supreme being, they are the ones that survived in this modern age. What supposedly pushed this process on of survival of the fittest religions? The idea is this. As society progressed from simply hunter and gatherer tribes, little villages, you didn't know your neighbors so well anymore, and you couldn't be guaranteed of their cooperative behavior. As society became more and more upscale in complexity and sophistication, some kind of factor was needed that would make people cooperate. Therefore came the super religions, which presented an all-knowing, all-powerful, supreme being who was watching everyone, making sure that they behaved morally. So that invention, the idea is, this invention is necessary for complex societies. Because the theory is that watched people, people who are observed, are nice people. When there's a God who sees everything, then you'll behave. But atheists in religious societies are not appreciated. There's great prejudice. This theory goes. There's great prejudice against atheists in religious societies because atheists they don't acknowledge being watched. So how can you trust them in your everyday affairs, in your everyday dealings? Atheists don't acknowledge as a supreme witness. Therefore, they can do whatever they like. So people don't like them. So as society became more complex, the super religions assumed a very important role in terms of guaranteeing orderly behavior, especially orderly economic transactions. But then what happened? Society evolved even more to the point where you can now see that societies, this is the way the theory goes, societies with a highly developed legal system, strong police, strong laws, they don't need God anymore. The examples frequently trotted forth are the Scandinavian societies, notoriously atheistic and godless, but very harmonious, very smooth operating, very cohesive, orderly. So they are presented as the proof that the super beings, the supreme Godheads, can be phased out now. Because religion is like a ladder that you walk up the ladder for attaining social cohesiveness and orderly cooperation amongst human beings. But once your society develops in terms of cohesiveness and cooperation, by having strong laws, police that can't be bribed, and a good judiciary system, then you can throw that ladder away. And in this way, atheists will not be discriminated against. They won't be considered dangerous people because they don't accept that God is watching over them. Now everyone can accept that the state is watching over you, and in this way there's no need for religious morality. There's one catch to this theory, admitted by its proponents. The USA is considered a very religious country, at least on paper. 90% of the persons in the USA believe in a God. 50% take the creation story in the Old Testament as literal. Yet the USA is considered to be a socially developed society with judiciary system, police, legislation, so on and so forth. So that is a contradiction to this theory. But nevertheless, the theory is so attractive. God is simply necessary for human beings who haven't reached the highest pinnacle of development. So you have to think that there's someone watching you and someone watching over everyone. And then you'll be forced to be good. Because there are no other social developments that will provide that harmony and cohesiveness of behavior in human society. But once your society develops to the point where most of its elected leaders are not having criminal charges against them. Once society develops to a point where you can't bribe the police, you can't bribe the judges, then you understand God is not needed. I'll let you fill in the blanks about all. In this way, you can, with an atheistic mentality, deplete the universe of any conscious control, especially since you don't know what consciousness is anyway. As Krishna clearly explains in Bhagavad Gita, that which pervades the whole body is consciousness, and consciousness is the energy of the spirit soul. So when you hear about the wind gods, the Maruts, you're simply hearing about conscious entities who can have power over elements of nature. You're hearing about the glories of consciousness. We spoke about Indra's wrath causing this environmental disaster. You get a vivid description of the suffering of the cows. The cows are trying to hide their heads under their own bodies, put their calves under their own bodies. This description is meant to indeed stay in your mind, because you say Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. Krishna, he's the protector of the brahmanas and the cows. Twice in Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada explains that when you say that prayer, Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmanya Hitaya, you should know that, yes, Krishna is the protector of the brahmanas and the cows, but he actually cares more for the cows than the brahmanas. The cows are Krishna's pets in Goloka Vrindavan. By hearing this description of Indra's attack on Vrindavan, you increase in your feelings of wanting to protect the cows. you increase in your understanding of how important cows are. So much so that the acharyas explain the cows are more valuable than even the brahmanas. Amidst this disaster, who are the residents of Vrindavan going to turn to? Krishna is their everything. And so indeed, they're crying out to Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Mahabhaga, Tvannatam Gokulam Prabho, Tratum Ahasi Devana, Kupitad Bhaktavatsala. Krishna, please deliver the cows from the wrath of Indra. And then at the end they say, please save us also. You are affectionate to your devotees. Actually, this whole destruction hitting Vrindavan, behind it all is Krishna's affection for his devotees. He wants to increase the prema of the residents of Vrindavan. So, from one point of view, it looks like they are suffering so much. But that's from our material point of view. The whole situation is a divine arrangement for them to love Krishna even more. This is what makes bhakti so mysterious. When one has material vision, he or she will just look at what appears to be complete material suffering and not be able to see the spiritual wealth, the spiritual luxury. And of course, the highest spiritual luxury is Krishna Prema. That's what Krishna has in mind for the residents of Vrindavan. And he's also being affectionate to Indra. He's going to smash Indra's pride. So in this way, if we look at the whole Govardhan Leela from the viewpoint, not so much of suffering in a material sense, but look at it as an increase in prema, then we get a deeper insight into the whole situation. The residents of Vrindavan felt assured to turn to Krishna. Number one, because they had heard from Gargarishi, and number two, they had already seen Krishna do amazing things. So their turning to Krishna is completely justified in all aspects. By the words of Gargarishi, by what they had seen, and most of all, is justified by what is the highest importance in Vrindavan. It's justified by their unceasing attraction for Krishna. Who else can they turn to? They would never think of turning to anyone else. What did Gargarishi tell Nanda Maharaj? Nanda Maharaj wanted to take advantage of Gargarishi's coming to Vrindavan. Gargarishi had been sent by Vasudeva, a close friend of Nanda Maharaj. They're both part of the Yadu dynasty, but because Nanda Maharaj is a Vaishya, he's not considered in the same group when you speak about the Yadus. Gargarishi appeared, and Nanda Maharaj offered him all honor. And he said a very important thing. You are Adokshaja Diya. Even though I'm seeing you with my material senses, you're actually a person who can't be understood by material senses. Although I can see you apparently with my material senses, I still offer you respect because I know that you are a transcendental phenomenon. This is Nanda Maharaj teaching us how to approach Krishna's representative. Nanda Maharaj is taking into account two things. Yes, you are within the range of my ordinary sense perception. At the same time, I respect you because I know that you are beyond the range of my sense perception. So in that way, even a simple cowherd man like Nanda Maharaj can balance such deep truths. I'm seeing, but I'm not seeing. He doesn't deny what his ordinary senses are picking up. At the same time, he's saying, I know that there's so much more that I'm not seeing. And I'm not going to become familiar with you just because I can see you materially. Very important point. I'm going to give you all respect for being a spiritual entity, even though it seems like I can see you with my material eyes. Very deep. So Nanda Maharaj continues to offer praise to Gargarishi, clarifying that you are a saintly person. You don't need anything. You have no goals. But still you're coming to my house. You have no self-interest in doing so. It's only you're coming out of mercy, compassion for householders like me. He glorifies Gargarishi's knowledge. You know the astrological shastras. You can tell the past, present, and future. So please, I want to take advantage of your presence. Please give the name-giving ceremony, the Namakarana ceremony for Krishna and Balaram. As you know, Gargarishi, being a very astute sage, could understand there's danger here. He had to indicate somehow or other to Nanda Maharaj that you'll bring down great misfortune upon yourself, upon me, Gargarishi, and you'll bring down great misfortune on Krishna if I do this ceremony. Because everyone knows that I am the priest of the Yadu dynasty. And Kamsa is very clever. He's already looking for where is this Krishna. He was warned by his worshipable deity Durga Devi. Yogamaya presented herself in the prison cell of Vasudeva and Devaki. She told Kamsa, you fool, you can't kill me. But anyway, the child you're after has been born somewhere else. So Gargarishi explains to Nanda Maharaj, Kamsa takes Durga so seriously. Kamsa doesn't see Yogamaya, he saw Durga Devi. Kamsa is such a devotee of Durga that he is convinced that the 8th child he's looking for is somewhere else. He's already sent so many demons to Vrindavan. He's on to the situation. He suspected Krishna may be in Vrindavan. All the demons he sent so far, Putana, Shakatasura, they've been killed. So, and then here I come, Gargarishi, the priest of the Yadu dynasty, and you want me to do the name-giving ceremony. Don't you understand, Nanda Maharaj? Kamsa will easily put 1 + 1 together and come out with 2. So as you know, Nanda Maharaj was so determined to have benefit to his family by having such a saintly person as Gargarishi do the name-giving ceremony, that Nanda Maharaj, and with his village expertise, said, here's a way we can still have this ceremony. We'll do it in the cowshed. During the day, the cows are all in the forest. So the cowshed will be clean, it'll be empty, we'll do the ceremony there. So that's what happened. In doing the name-giving ceremony, Gargarishi did indicate the glories of Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. In previous births, this child was the son of Vasudeva. Therefore, he's also known as Vasudeva. This child can assume different colors. That's Gargarishi indicating to Nanda Maharaj he's actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Furthermore, Narayana Sama, this child is sort of equal with Narayan. The Acharyas say that there's a hidden meaning to that statement by Gargarishi of Narayana Sama. It's not actually that Krishna is equal to Narayan. The confidential meaning is that Narayan is actually inferior to Krishna, in that Krishna does things like giving liberation to the demons he kills. Krishna does things like enjoying as Rasa Bihari, the Rasa Leela. Those were hidden meanings packed into Gargarishi's statement. This child will be like Narayan. Now, at the same time, Gargarishi wants to encourage the Vatsalya Prem of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai. So he says, he's like Narayan, and if you take good care of him, his powers coming from Narayan will increase. So Gargarishi presented that indication. And Nanda Maharaj never forgot it. Meanwhile, Nanda Maharaj always thought, this is my son. So therefore, when disaster strikes, this ecological disaster, in terms of Indra attacking Vrindavan, naturally everyone's going to run to Krishna. They're justified on all levels. The sadhu has spoken. They've seen by their own experience what Krishna has done when he's been attacked by demons. And also, the most important reason is Krishna is all attractive. They cannot go anywhere for anything except to Krishna. That is the glory of Vrindavan. It's sometimes difficult for us to overlook material circumstances when we try to analyze the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're so attached to material analysis. We're so attached to using our material circumstances as indication of whether God is pleased with us or not. And that means we want to see, as a natural outcome of bhakti, we want to see material prosperity. If not material prosperity, at least freedom from material distress. That should be a natural result of bhakti as we see it. But you see, bhakti does not guarantee that the material world will offer you no problems. But it guarantees you'll be free from material distress because you'll be off the bodily platform. When Krishna says that you take to bhakti, you surrender to him, he's not guaranteeing that the material world will cease to inflict its miseries, but he is guaranteeing that you won't be affected by it. You'll be so focused on your spiritual service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You'll be off the material platform. Nevertheless, the material platform works in its way. A few weeks ago, I was in Ukraine. They had just finished their festival of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of devotees. And so, as I traveled through the temples in that country, at one temple they were going over the part of the Bhagavatam in the 4th canto where the history of Maharaj Anga and his horrible son Vena is presented. Anga, a great devotee of the Lord, a great king, filled with Krishna consciousness. Yet what happened? Even today in India you see that the process of bride selection is very careful. What's the background? What are the parents like? Of course the tradition is corroding very quickly. But nevertheless, you see remnants of what happened during Maharaj Anga's time. Everything was done so carefully. the arrangement of his marriage so that the royal dynasty would be perpetuated. And what kind of line was Maharaj Anga coming in? He's coming in the line of Dhruva Maharaj. Yet what happened? He somehow or other married a wife who was not auspicious. The Bhagavatam describes that she was the daughter of death personified. In other words, things happen in the material world. That's the way it is. Maharaj Anga marries this wife. And then he wants a son. He has a yajna. The great sages help him in this yajna. Vena is born. Such a cruel son who killed his own playmates as a little child. Maharaj Anga did everything to correct his son, but he finally gave up. And in the middle of the night, he left home, went to the forest. So the point we want to look at is, how could such a great devotee have to go through such a situation? Why didn't Krishna arrange happy family life for him? He had money, okay, that's nice. He had opulence, but what about the nice home life? So a neophyte would start to wonder, what is this bhakti? What's the point of bhakti if it doesn't make everything materially nice? But remember, just as in the case of Vrindavan, when Indra is apparently afflicting such misery, you have Bhaktivatsala behind it all. Krishna increasing the affection with his devotees. Similarly, you can see the same hand of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although not as intimately shown as he does in Vrindavan. You can see it in the life of Maharaj Anga. The Supreme Personality of Godhead wanted Maharaj Anga to come back to Godhead more quickly. So, he gave him a tough wife, and he gave him a horrible son. Now, what are you going to think about that? Don't do it to me, Krishna. Okay. All glories to Maharaj Anga, ki jai, but be careful with me, Krishna. One false move that you make and I'm out of here. We're a little frightened of Krishna's dealings as Bhaktivatsala. Krishna, what you call affectionate dealings, I don't know. I think we could do without it. Okay, Vrindavan. You wanted to increase the prema of Vrindavan, and now there's this huge attack on the environment of Vrindavan by Indra. The natural forces that are reserved for the time of annihilation of the universe are now focused on Vrindavan. And then because you want to increase their prema. Then we look at Maharaj Anga. He's in the line of Prahlad Maharaj. He's your dedicated devotee. And you give him a bad wife and a horrible son because you want him to go back to Godhead quicker. So we should think about this. What is the vision that I have? What are my concepts? The Bhagavatam is showing you what is real wealth, what is real opulence. It is love of Krishna. We're so attached to seeing value on the material plane. Because of the bodily conception of life, we value material security, material comfort as the most important sign of God's blessings upon us. Or if not the most important, a very important sign. But hearing from Bhagavatam totally rearranges your thinking. That's why it's so important to hear Bhagavatam in the society of sincere devotees. Your concepts become rearranged. Sometimes the question was asked of me. I think someone in Ukraine asked this question when we were discussing Maharajanga. Why doesn't Krishna treat us all like Dhruva Maharaj, who got so much opulence, so much wealth? That shows you really what Krishna can do. So why doesn't he do that for all of us? I remember an answer Srila Prabhupada gave to that question. He said, yes, Krishna could fulfill your material desires in the way that he did for Dhruva Maharaj. But, he said, it'll take you a long time to go back to Godhead. And Krishna, being the most intense lover, being the supreme expert in real love, may decide he wants a devotee more quickly to come back to him. And remember the words of Dhruva Maharaj himself. He lamented, what a fool I was to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, worship him for the sake of fulfilling material desires. I was chasing after broken pieces of glass, ignoring the greatest jewel. So Dhruva Maharaj is not recommending that you do what he did. Yet, in our material consciousness, we have such expectations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And yes, even with material desires, if you approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, still you are commendable because you are approaching Krishna. And therefore Krishna explains, my devotee approaches me for material desires. I'm not so foolish. I know how to work with those desires and transform the whole package. So when you sign up for bhakti, you're really signing up for Krishna's transformative dealings. And that is love. Krishna himself says, as Lord Chaitanya describes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, my devotee comes to me with these foolish, childish desires. Why should I just give in to all that? That wouldn't be real love and affection and care. So I'll work with those desires. In fact, I may even fulfill those desires, but I'll fulfill them in such a way that my devotee will never ask for me. He'll never ask me for these things again. So much of our advancement in bhakti depends on our starting to trust Krishna. Sometimes in my travels around the world, I speak about in interactive seminars and workshops with devotees, I speak about how unconsciously we may be accusing Krishna of so many things. And therefore we have hard lumps in our heart which are preventing us from fully investing ourselves in chanting and in devotional service. And it's amazing how many devotees, because I asked them, raise your hands, how many of you very subtly and somehow or other hidden deep in your heart have some grudge against Krishna? And it's amazing how 80% of the devotees, in rooms of hundreds of devotees, 80% will raise their hands. I know it's different here. I won't ask you, don't worry. So many devotees have something in their heart that they haven't resolved or reconciled. They can't understand it. Krishna, why did you let this happen to me? Why did you do this to me? I'm your devotee. Why was I put through such a situation? Health crisis, financial crisis, disagreement with others, even disagreement with other devotees. I've been misunderstood. I've been mistreated. I didn't get this. I didn't get that. Look at those other devotees. They have this. They have that. Why did I have to go through such an ordeal? So in this way, you develop this scar tissue in your heart, and these hard lumps are there, and you can't cry out to Krishna with feeling. So I was amazed how many devotees have some issue with Krishna. Because he didn't do this, or he did that. Look what he did to Maharaj Anga. Is that any kind of way to treat me? I'm just an ordinary devotee. Maharaj Anga was a great soul in the line of Dhruva Maharaj. He can handle whatever Krishna is going to do to him. How can you expect that of me? And in the back of our mind, we're thinking, Krishna, if you're really the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you know that to encourage me in bhakti, you should fulfill my material desires. You're omniscient. You're all-knowing. Indra accuses you of being agyam, ignorant. But we know better. You know exactly how to give us everything we want. And you know that we'll be so enthusiastic in bhakti when you give us everything we want. Govindamari Purushottama. So, at the root of our issue with Krishna can be disagreement, misunderstanding. Therefore, we need to educate ourselves in the science of bhakti, in the association of sincere devotees. And gradually, this fog that's covering our vision starts to dissipate, and we start to see what Bhaktivatsala really means. Just like the case of Krishna eating dirt. The real important point in that Leela, where Krishna's friends, even Balaram, accused him of eating dirt. The real important point is actually not whether or not Krishna ate dirt. The real point is his wanting to increase the affection amongst his devotees as Bhaktivatsala. Try to understand Mother Yashoda's position. She had already heard so many reports about Krishna doing mischief in the village of Vrindavan as a little child. He and Balaram had just started crawling here and there and then standing up on their feet. And they were breaking into people's houses, stealing milk products, passing stool and urine in clean places. Krishna would even threaten terrorism. He would tell the older cowherd men, if I don't find any butter to steal in your house, the next morning I'm coming back with a hot coal in my hand. I'm going to burn your whole house down. So Mother Yashoda was always getting these reports of all the mischief Krishna was doing. Actually, the gopis, the older gopis, wanted to tell her because they felt maybe she's missing out. She's not hearing all what her son is doing. So they're actually also telling her in order to increase her bliss. As they were accusing Krishna, and Mother Yashoda is listening, Krishna is right there. And then everyone looks in Krishna's face, and he's just having the look on his face that he's completely innocent, he's fearful. He melts everyone's hearts. They forget all their complaints. Mother Yashoda never chastises him at that point. But now this is too much. The accusation of eating dirt. And Mother Yashoda, the Acharyas say, is actually a bit angry. First of all, she has the best milk sweets in her house, and Krishna's going to other houses to steal. Now, in spite of her having the best milk sweets in her house, Krishna's eating dirt? You have to appreciate her maternal feelings. It's too much. My little baby is eating dirt. So she tells Krishna, even your brother Balaram is saying this. Why have you done this? And what is Krishna's reply? Mother, they're all conspiring against me. They're just angry because I won't play with them anymore. Therefore, my brother Balaram and these other little boys, they've all conspired to make these false accusations. So then Krishna presents the situation. Let's be scientific here. Let's do a proper investigation. Isn't it obvious that if I've eaten dirt, when you look in my mouth, you'll see it? So that sounds reasonable to Mother Yashoda. And of course, you know what happens when Krishna opens his mouth. Krishna's in effect saying, you're looking for dirt, I'll show you the whole universe. I'll show you not only earth, I'll show you water, fire, air, ether, I'll show you everything that's going on in the universe. I'll even show you yourself. She's looking in his mouth. She doesn't exactly see the universe in his mouth. Through his mouth she can see down into his belly, and that's where the whole universe is. And she can even see herself. So again, the important issue is not so much whether Krishna ate dirt or not. The important point is how Krishna is increasing the affection of his devotees. Even by apparently being a liar. I never ate any dirt, Mother. I didn't do it. Krishna is showing that he's all attractive in everything he does, even probably by his being a childhood liar. He's still all attractive. And why is he doing all these activities of mischief, of apparently lying? He's doing it simply to increase the affection of his devotees. So as we hear Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, we start to develop trust in Bhaktivatsala. We have this deep-seated fear, and even deep-seated, resentment may be a strong word, but some wounds. Krishna, why did you do this to me? You're a devotee. Why didn't you give me this? Or why did you let that happen to me? And as I said, therefore we can't cry out to Krishna in kirtan. We can't invest ourselves fully in devotional service. That's why Lord Chaitanya teaches us in his own words. Krishna, you may treat me this way or that way. Whatever you do, you're my worshipable Lord unconditionally. This is the standard that Lord Chaitanya wants us to aspire for. And aspiring for this standard is worth our whole life and more. By hearing the Vrindavan Leela, Krishna's pastimes, you amazingly start to lose this hardness in your heart. You start to become so attracted to Krishna. Krishna, whatever you do. You can steal butter, you can lie about eating dirt, and you can even arrange that Vrindavan be attacked by the clouds of cosmic annihilation. But it's all the activity of Bhaktivatsala. There's only one thing in mind, how to increase the affection of your devotees, how to increase the intensity of their praying. And as a byproduct, you've also dismantled Indra's pride. But that's also affection. Remember when Krishna's dancing on the hoods of Kaliya? He waits until everyone is totally berserk with just lamentation and distress before he finally starts to free himself from the coils of Kaliya. He knows how to do it. He's the supreme lover. We think we know what love is. That's why we sometimes feel insecure about what Krishna does. So according to our material consciousness, we would say, Krishna, why are you putting the residents of Vrindavan in such anxiety on the bank of the Jamuna as you're caught in the coils of Kaliya? Why are you making such a big production out of it? Why you get into such a situation like that? Just see, the residents of Vrindavan have collapsed on the banks of the Jamuna. Mother Yashoda is trying to enter the poisonous waters herself. She has to be restrained. Krishna, you're causing all this commotion just for love? That's where our material consciousness will take us. So gradually Krishna is teaching us what is the real luxury, what is the greatest gift to ask him. And it takes a while for us to be deprogrammed from our material consciousness. To accept that Krishna is the supreme lover means to accept he's the most expert in how to arrange love. So in this way we can start to appreciate the activities of Bhaktivatsala. Very mysterious, but the Bhagavatam reveals it to you. And by repeated hearing of Bhagavatam, the reality starts to sink in, and you begin to trust Krishna. He's going to arrange for his sincere devotee that the devotee increases in his or her love for him. That's the most important thing. As for the material world, material bodies, they come and they go. So even in Vrindavan Dham, where there's apparent distress, and you hear such a description of what Indra is doing, the destruction, the environmental disaster he's causing, yet even there, everything is about increasing the Krishna praying. That's why the residents of Vrindavan 100% focus on Krishna. They have no doubts that whatever happens in Vrindavan, their love for Krishna is going to increase. And of course then, after you see Krishna do amazing things, you start to wonder, who is he? And that will happen after the lifting of Govardhan Hill. During the lifting, all the residents of Vrindavan are caught up in the sweetness of the Leela. But then after Govardhan Hill has been put down, and they've joyfully praised Krishna and showered their love upon Krishna, even the gopis could praise Krishna in public, whereas normally they had to be reserved and off to the side. Even when Krishna was holding up Govardhan Hill, the gopis had to look from far off. But once the hill is down and everyone is having a party, a celebration, then even the gopis could publicly declare their joy for Krishna. But once that's all over, philosophical speculation enters Vrindavan. And it's the sweetest kind of philosophical speculation. Did you see that? 7-year-old boy lifted Govardhan Hill. What do you think? The cowherd men start discussing. Could this be the Supreme Personality of Godhead? But no, just think. This little boy, if you don't pay him attention, he causes disturbances. He gets hungry. He gets thirsty. He's talkative. But then again, he lifted Govardhan Hill. It becomes a hot topic in Vrindavan after the lifting of Govardhan Hill. So the cowherd men, they say, well, there's only one way to resolve this issue. Let us approach Nanda Maharaj. He's the most erudite person in the village. So they approached Nanda Maharaj. And he explains to them, let us think what Gargarishi has said. Gargarishi has said that I'll have a son who's like Narayan. So it's obvious what has happened. Narayan has invested extraordinary powers in my son, and therefore he lifted Govardhan Hill. The cowherd men thought, yeah, this is a very appropriate explanation. Now we better understand that little boy. Nanda Maharaj, you have said very, very correctly. We better understand this little boy now. When Krishna does something extraordinary in Vrindavan, sometimes the Brijbasis are wondering who he is. And they come up with the most amazing conclusions. Their conclusions are always such that they never accept that Krishna is God. Even though right before their eyes, Krishna has done such inconceivable things. Somehow or other, they always evade the point. Now we understand. He's like Narayan. The powers of Narayan have become invested in him. Because of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda's piety, their son is able to attract the powers of Narayan into himself. What about the cowherd boys after Krishna swallowed the forest fire? They were in the Munjaranya forest, and you know how a forest fire threatened the cows and the cowherd boys. And they, of course, cried out to Krishna. And Krishna told them, close your eyes. What would you have done if you were there? Would you have closed your eyes? In fact, just think, when Krishna lifted up Govardhan Hill as a 7-year-old boy and said, come under the hill, would you have done it? Come on, be scientific. All you IIT-ites and others, would you have gone under Govardhan Hill? So the cowherd boys, they closed their eyes, and Krishna swallowed the forest fire. And then they found themselves transported back to an original spot of their playful pastimes, underneath a big tree. So after this Leela was over, just like the older cowherd men, the cowherd boys started discussing, what about our friend Krishna? What do you think? Did you just see that? We closed our eyes, and then the forest fire is gone. He swallowed the forest fire. What kind of friend is this? What do you think? So they began to speculate. Could he be this? Could he be that? Then they came to their conclusion. Krishna must be a demigod. Amazingly, a demigod is our playmate. And then they had to go to the next conclusion. Yes, Krishna's a demigod, and because he's our friend and we're equal to him, you know what that means? We're demigods too. Haribol! It all makes sense. What was Mother Yashoda's reaction after seeing the universe in Krishna's belly? She offered her prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand what I'm seeing. In such a situation, let me just offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And especially, let me ask the Supreme Personality of Godhead, please protect my little boy. I don't know what's going on inside him. I'm seeing strange things. Please protect him. So she was bewildered, but her bewilderment never conflicted with her Vatsalya Prem. Because Krishna didn't want that to happen no matter what. Vasudeva and Devaki, when they see Krishna's powers, like when he killed Kamsa, awe and reverence started to overtake them. And Krishna had to resort to Yogamaya tactics to get them off the awe and reverence platform so that they would greet him as their long-lost son. Mm-hmm. You remember Krishna's psychological approach to Vasudeva and Devaki, because they were standing there in awe and reverence. You've just killed Kamsa. So Krishna, with his Yogamaya potency, began to work on their hearts. Oh, Mother, oh, Father, how unfortunate I am. I couldn't spend my childhood years with you. How lamentable it is for a son not to be able to properly reciprocate with the parents. This way he began to tug on their hearts. And finally they just ended up crying and picking up Krishna on their lap. And it became a whole parental scene of love and affection. Just what Krishna wanted. Now, Mother Yashoda, she never became threatened by awe and reverence. Some or other, whatever she's seeing in Krishna's belly didn't overpower or even diminish her maternal love for Krishna. He was always her son. And Krishna, so much cherishing Mother Yashoda's pure maternal affection, after playing for a while by showing this form of the universe in his belly, enough of that. If Mother Yashoda starts speculating too much about who I am, who's going to feed me, who's going to care for me, all right, enough of this. So he took that situation away, and Mother Yashoda picked him up and could fully immerse in her maternal activities for Krishna, unimpeded at all by anything she saw. Oh, whatever I saw in his belly, let it be. He's my baby. Let me love him. Nothing impeded her pure Vatsalya Prem for Krishna. So this is Bhaktivatsala. And by hearing the activities of Bhaktivatsala throughout the Bhagavatam, intimately with the residents of Vrindavan, then again with Maharaj Anga, we can start to trust Krishna by our realizing what is real wealth, what is real opulence. And we can beg Krishna to please, even though we may be kicking and unwilling sometimes, even though we may be a little rebellious and stubborn, we can beg Krishna, please, go on with the reforming process so that we can become genuine lovers of you. That is Lord Chaitanya's program. All right. Are there any questions? Yes.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, thank you very much for a wonderful class. I have some serious question is that we see you in the Krishna consciousness for more than 40 years. So a doubt used to come in our life, and we used to see in our life also to some extent, that once you come into Krishna consciousness, you go in a very aggressive mood and you go with very full band that, okay, all my anarthas and all my shortcomings of Krishna, which I have, will go away in due course of time, and we go in a very aggressive way. But after some years of time, when you are about to cross 50, 55 years, and you understand, now I'm really settled in my Krishna consciousness, I'm a little bit settled, and I can really keep my Krishna consciousness completely focused. And now my death is coming nearby, so I'll be able to maintain my Krishna consciousness very smoothly. But then at some certain point of time, you see it, that the anarthas which you had in your life, it comes up very suddenly. And you get a very big shock in your life that this, I have never thought of it, it will come at this fag end of my life. Where I'm about to leave my body, at that time this anarthas have completely haunted on me. And this will not disturb my final death of my human life, and I'll miss the bus of devotional life. That fear makes you very much disturbed in your Krishna consciousness. When that stage comes in our life, where you felt that the anartha has been completely dissolved or it has gone away, but it was been subdued, but it has not been completely dissolved. It does come at the time where you are completely at the fag end of your life. In that circumstances, where that stage comes in your life, what a devotee should do, what a devotee should aspire, and what a devotee should do in this juncture, so that his final days of devotional life should not get disturbed.
First of all, you have to understand the nature of the mind. In the 5th canto, where Shukadeva Goswami warns about the mind, how unchaste the mind is, how flickering it is. Shukadeva Goswami says that when a hunter captures an animal and puts it in a cage, the hunter never trusts the animal, knowing that by its nature it's going to try to escape. So Shukadeva Goswami says that's how you should regard the mind. Never think that now I've caught it, everything is fine. You keep your eye on it, knowing that at any moment its nature is to break out. So in the commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that the mind is inherently changey. It's very mutable. It's always changing this way, that way. That means that, yes, for a while your mind may be pure, but it can also jump to impure. So Chakravarti Pada explains that's the nature of the mind. So don't ever think that now it's stable on pure. It flips back and forth, various phases. So therefore, the devotee is very vigilant watching the mind. And that's easy to do as you become an older devotee, because you realize you're not your mind. Material life means you worship your mind. You love your mind. That's what contemporary psychology teaches people. You are your mind. Love it. Whatever comes to your mind, indulge in it. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita teaches, Indriyani Pranyahu. Higher than the senses is the mind. Higher than the mind is the intelligence. So, as a devotee, we're trying to develop deliberative intelligence. Intelligence that deliberates, contemplates, and that way you can see the unchaste nature of the mind. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur especially points out in his commentary that yoga practitioners can apparently subdue the mind for a long time. And then the mind suddenly jumps back at them and reveals, I'm still the same monster. And that can really disturb the yogi. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur recommends you understand that's the way the mind is, and don't put your faith in it. So then you may ask, well, if I don't put my faith in my mind, where do I put my faith? You put your faith in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whether your mind is this way or that way, you go on with your service. So the mistake, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out, is thinking, now I've got that animal captured. I can rest in peace. So I know for devotees this may sound a little, you may take it in a discouraging way. You mean after 40 years I still have to watch my mind? Oh no. I thought you only do that when you're in your 20s or when you're a new devotee. Watch your mind, Prabhu. "Oh mind, you are not a Vaishnava." You thought that was only in the beginning stages of bhakti. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the nature of the mind is unchaste. Don't trust it. But as you become an older devotee, you see that your mind is not you. So it comes up with all these magical tricks. It comes up with all these illusions, but you know it's not you. So I understand what you're saying. The mind can embarrass you with its inherent, essential unchasteness. Especially after a long time of practicing bhakti. But Vishwanath says, don't think that a long time of practicing automatically makes the mind something it's not. He says, by nature it's unchaste. By nature it flickers. Yes, it can be pure even for a long time. Then it switches into impure and catches you totally off guard and bewilders you. So he says, watch out for that. It can do that. In other words, don't put your hopes in it. It requires some deep thought. So I recommend you look at that section of the 5th canto. Shukadeva Goswami doesn't say, by the way, my warning is only for young devotees. Of course, then we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we read about the mind of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is showing you the highest potential of bhakti. Muramana Vrindavana. My mind is Vrindavan. In my mind, the pastimes of Vrindavan are spontaneously taking place. That's the full potential of bhakti. We may see that, we may not. But we go on with our service to our spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada explained that the attitude of a real devotee is, I may go back to Godhead in this lifetime, I may not. But what are the instructions of my Guru? My mind may be shooting this way, that way, but what are the instructions of my spiritual master? What is the service of my spiritual master? So in that way, your faith and hope is not in your mind. So I think what you're saying is something I've thought about recently very intensely while reading the 5th canto, that part of the 5th canto. There seems to be an assumption that as I spend 40, 50 years in bhakti, I no longer have to guard my mind. And isn't it time that now that we have spent so many years serving Krishna, isn't it time to just relax the guard? To not have to be so attentive? And isn't it such a misery, a drudgery to keep watching your mind? But no, it becomes easier and easier as you understand you're not the mind. It's like the hunter realizing, I'm not that animal I've captured. The animal I've captured may do so many things, but I'm not it. I'm neither going to trust it, nor will I fall under its control.
Maharaj, I fully agree that mind, we cannot rely on the mind. But there should be some way by which till the last breath of our life, the mind always remains subdued under you and it doesn't pop up and make you completely disturbed. So can you just tell us what is the process or what is the tactics that we have to use it by which the mind always remains subdued? Although we will remain alert and on guard, but it remains subdued forever.
If you dedicate your whole life to Krishna's service, and if at the last moment of life, due to bodily disarrangement, due to so many physical, chaotic conditions, if at the last minute of your life you cannot focus on Krishna, remember you're dealing with Bhaktivatsala. Krishna will not forget your lifetime of service. He will force himself into your mind if he wants to. So let us not forget the Krishna factor. He's not ungrateful. So again, a crucial element in our spiritual advancement is to learn to trust Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a question about the selected servants of Krishna like Indra. About the selected servants of Krishna like Indra and
Yes.
Brahma.
Yes.
Their changing attitude within the 100 days period of heavenly calculations. First they came to pray to Krishna when he was in the womb of Mother Devaki. Then this Govardhan Lila took place, the incident. Then again Indra confessed his mistake. Then later on, after killing Narkasura, Krishna and Satyabhama went to heaven to return the property of heaven, the shield and the earrings of Mother Aditi. And that time also Indra could not even, as a matter of gratitude, he could not even let him take one fragrant flower from there. So they are selected. We are like ordinary persons, but Indra is a selected servant of Krishna, and if his mind also changes apparently, how do we understand that?
Don't go to the heavenly planets. Go back to Godhead. Yes, the demigods sometimes become overwhelmed by the Ishamana and thinking that they are so powerful. It's a risk. They're devotees, but they are attached to controlling. And Indra is showing the excessiveness of that. So much so that twice he said, Krishna Marcham Upasrita. They've taken shelter of an ordinary boy, Krishna. He's an ordinary mortal. So that's the risk of being in the heavenly planets. In the 5th canto Bhagavatam, you are warned by the residents of the heavenly planets themselves that they say if we have any punya, any pious activities left over in our punya bank account, we want to take birth on earth because there are much better facilities for going back to Godhead on earth. Your life is very short. After a few years, you can go back to Godhead. Whereas the heavenly planets have such intense material enjoyment. It's so easy to forget what's the goal of life. So they say if we have any punya left over when we finish our stint in the heavenly planets, we want to take birth on earth. And particularly, we want to take birth in India. Then we can easily go back to Godhead. And of course, Srila Prabhupada has taken the spiritual treasure of India and made it accessible for the whole world. So in that way, Srila Prabhupada has made the whole world, the whole earth planet, conducive for going back to Godhead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Pranam. My question is regarding this, you told about how Krishna is fulfilling desires, sometimes not, or sometimes he creates some problems, troubles, or he puts in miseries. Sometimes he takes out something valuable from our life. That increases our devotion. Then how one can understand it is from Krishna's side or according to our past life karmas?
Very good question. I was talking about this in Kyiv, Ukraine, at a meeting for the counselors of all the city of Kyiv. They had about 50 counselors just for the city of Kyiv, which is about a few million persons population. So I said, actually, this is why guidance is required in bhakti. To help you to understand when something is Krishna's arrangement and something is your arrangement. Normally, when good things happen to us, in the material sense, we say, Krishna's arrangement. And when some Setback happens to us. Who did that to me? Why? So guidance is required to deal with these situations. Also to understand what indeed may be a setback personally arranged by Krishna to bring you closer to Him, and what may be just ordinary karmic reactions. Of course, for devotees, a devotee never gets ordinary karmic reactions. Karmani dahati kinchuta bhakti bhajam. You get a personal blend of your karma, personally supervised by Krishna. So in any case, all these intricacies require guidance to understand, and that's a main reason why we have the counselor system, so that you can hear from experienced, mature devotees. So you don't get bewildered. Why is this happening? And what is it? Is it Krishna's arrangement? Is it just my own faultiness? It requires guidance to see that. Just like in the case of Maharaj Anga. Without the guidance of Prabhupada's purports, you begin to wonder, what, Anga, born in the dynasty of Prahlad Maharaj, a dedicated devotee of the Lord, and he gets a bad wife and a horrible son. Why? I remember once Srila Prabhupada, in describing what he was going through before he came to the USA, before he left India, he was saying that ever since he first met his Guru Maharaj Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he took the message and the mission that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada gave him, took it deep into his heart, and always thought about it ever since that first meeting, even though his initiation ceremony didn't happen until 11 or so years later. So he was always thinking about the instructions of his spiritual master. He was always thinking, how am I going to go outside of India and distribute the message of Mahaprabhu? So he said, I had a plan. According to astrologers, he said, I was meant to become one of the richest men ever in India. So he said, my plan was that by being wealthy, people would listen to me internationally, and then I could attract their attention to the message of Mahaprabhu. He said, because otherwise, I was thinking, who would listen to some penniless sadhu from India? So he said, my plan was to be wealthy and then spread Mahaprabhu's message in that way. And he continued to explain, but Krishna and I had a disagreement. I wanted to do it as a rich man. Krishna said, do it as a poor man. So he said, Krishna won the disagreement, Krishna won the argument, and so he came to America with practically penniless. So there is Srila Prabhupada explaining how Krishna's hand is in his own life. So with the commentaries of mature devotees, in the case of Srila Prabhupada, commentary of the best devotee, we can understand what's happening in our life. That's a main reason why one should have a counselor. Because things will happen that are bewildering. It's not just hearing about Anga Maharaj, it could be bewildering. Seeing the environmental destruction, the forces of annihilation released upon Vrindavan by Indra, just because Indra is proud. There's so many things that can happen to us that we can question and doubt Krishna. So bhakti requires guidance. Krishna himself says that. You want to know the truth about what's going on? You get guidance in bhakti. Every devotee will go through a situation in which you begin to wonder, where is Krishna? What's happening? That's the nature of bhakti. So therefore, experience guidance it's essential.
Maharaj,
is that Radha Krishna Prabhu? I can't see that far back without my glasses.
Mahaprabhu, that's.
Oh, it's Mahaprabhu. Okay.
When you are talking about Indra and material prosperity and today's education system, actually this has nothing to do with spiritual life to understand, then why majority of the people, or they are so much interested in this material education, because they are not teaching anything which is connected what you are teaching us. So what is the use of this education?
They're thinking, what is the use of your religion when society has evolved to a point where it no longer needs surveillance by a super god? Now the government can provide surveillance over everything. That's what the USA is all about. It's actually the most elaborate surveillance society on earth right now. So since society has evolved to the point where human beings can cooperate and be cohesive without allegiance to a god, what is the use of your religion? That's what they're thinking. Religion was only necessary, remember, according to their interpretation, as a ladder to walk up to get to the point of social harmony. In the beginning, human beings needed to fear a God who was watching everyone and judging them for immorality. But now, as society has become more advanced, you simply need a good state that does that. You need a police force that can't be bribed, judges that can't be bribed, court system that works, politicians who aren't charged with crimes, and then no need of God. But we can see some examples of countries that don't have those things, and therefore they're very religious. Therefore they're called the land of Dharma. That's the materialistic understanding. So you have to be able to explain to such persons how the spiritual knowledge is relevant. I'm just telling you what you're up against, what their mentality is. But if you immerse yourself in studying Srimad Bhagavatam and outreaching to these persons, Krishna will give you intelligence how to get around all these defenses. It's not impossible. Because more and more intelligent people in the world are thinking there are no solutions to the problems of today. Human beings are destroying their own environment. How can that be the sign of real advancement and progress? We are ruining the earth for the future generations. Every respectable parent wants to leave a better situation for the children. And that's not happening. So people are wondering. One last point. Since you asked that question. I was speaking at Stanford a few months ago, courtesy of devotees of Radha Gopinath Mandir who've gone on to study in the USA. So I was explaining a very hot new concept. The idea is that human beings have evolved with their technology, but they haven't evolved with the proper discretion to use that technology. Therefore, the earth is threatened by nuclear weapons, chemical warfare, as well as environmental destruction. So you have human beings who are advanced in technology, but the laws of evolution, so-called, have not brought about internal development in human beings. So we cannot trust human beings to be able to deal with all the toys that they've created with discretion, with maturity. What to do? And don't rely on religion, they say, because religion has been around for thousands of years. What has it done? People are still doing crazy things. They're destroying their own planet. What could be a good option? Biochemical moral enhancement. That because of scientific developments in terms of neurology, brain science, chemicals can be devised that when injected in human beings will cause them to act harmoniously. Now, this is being put forth by Oxford scholars. And they're saying it may not be the best solution, but it's the only hope we have. Otherwise, human beings are going to destroy their own world. They're therefore better to take a chance with science, inject people with brain chemicals that will make them very peaceful and cooperative and harmonious. They admit, these Oxford scholars, that there is a risk in this method of biochemical moral enhancement. Morality produced by biochemicals. There's a risk. They said the risk is that actually the persons who would develop this technology and supervise it are probably the persons most in need of these chemicals. They admit. But they said, what other option do we have? Religion has failed. Conventional morality has failed. The earth is being destroyed. So I discussed this when I was speaking at Stanford. This is the cutting edge. So these concepts and notions that I'm presenting to you of what materialists are thinking, this is the latest and greatest. I'm presenting to you. You don't have to waste your time trying to find out these things. I'm telling you what the latest and greatest is. So maybe give it 2 or 3 years and then all this nonsense will drift over to India. But this is what's happening. This is what's developing overseas. You should have no doubt that as people become more and more pressed by material nature, they'll start to listen more. Don't think that Maya is just going to sit back and let them have an unlimitedly happy time as complete materialists. It never works out that way. So you should be sure that material nature will aid your preaching efforts. It's always just a matter of time. So it is not hopeless. Krishna is in everyone's heart. The devotee is allied with the super soul in the heart, working for the same cause. Just like when Gargarishi left Nanda Maharaj's house, Srila Prabhupada describes that Gargarishi had given pleasure to both Nanda Maharaj and the super soul. Nanda Maharaj being the finite being, the super soul being the infinite being. Nevertheless, Gargarishi's service gave pleasure to them both. So our outreach activities are in alliance with the super soul in the heart. And Krishna does want his lost parts and parcels to go back to him. And material nature is there to kick them. It's just a matter of time before that point is realized. Matter of time only. Mm-hmm. I think we'll end here. I thank you for your kind attention. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki.
This is an announcement for Varishta Vaishnava. Today in Varishta Vaishnava camp, density test of bone will be carried out to know the level of deficiency of calcium in bone. So all the Varishta Vaishnava are requested to assemble Lakshmi Narayana.